All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video. And I once heard a guy say that you might beat me, you might take my record away, but one thing you can't take away is the fact that I was the first to do something. And today we're going to talk about two cars that were the first to hit some pretty big milestones in the B58 and S58 space. And not only did they break some records, but they actually come from two companies that make parts that go on the fastest cars in the world. However, they're not just on the fastest B58 and S58 cars. These are shop cars that they actually built themselves, which I think makes this even more special, that not only are they showcasing what their parts can do, but how they can actually put it to use from the actual shops. So I know this is something we don't talk about very often. Consider this your quarterly B58, S58 record update on this channel. I do like to talk about this stuff from time to time because it is pretty cool to see what people are accomplishing. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about it, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So for those of you that weren't aware, the weekend after SEMA was World Cup Finals, where they had the import versus domestics event. And there were a lot of cars racing out there, but I know ultimately this video is a little bit late. I apologize. There was a lot of stuff happening last week, as you saw from my recent videos. But I wanted to catch up and definitely talk about this because, again, two cars in the B58 and S58 space broke some pretty cool records. The first one we're going to talk about comes from KLM. I think if you guys have been in the community for any amount of time, you've definitely heard of them. Their turbo kits, again, are on pretty much all of the fastest cars in the B58 and S58 space. And they also build engines for a lot of the fastest cars as well. But this is their actual shop car. They have an M2, and I haven't seen a lot posted about this. I didn't really see much on their page, but the owner does post some stuff on his page when they're doing testing and things like that. But this time they actually really made a statement by being the first M2 in the sevens. So as you can see, they ran a 7.957 at 175 miles an hour, which is really impressive, especially for a car that I feel like I should have been hearing about more, but I guess I just wasn't paying attention. But really crazy for them to break that kind of record. They were running low eights and then dipped into the sevens before they got knocked out. Now, I did get a little bit of information directly from them, so I can share with you guys the setup that they're running and give you, some insight on how they put this together. The big thing that a lot of people were asking is if this car was xDrive converted, and it was not. This car is still rear wheel drive. So just like a lot of the other cars in the X58 run group, all the Supras and stuff, this car was rear wheel drive. It does not have an all wheel drive conversion. Now, of course, it is running their turbo kit. So it is the S58 Savage single turbo kit with a next gen 8685. So the precision turbos just keep getting bigger and bigger. Last time I thought we were all running 6870s, then we were running 7275s, then it went up to 76 millimeters. Now we're on 8685. So again, a really big turbo needed to get these cars moving fast. It is what it is, but it also sounds like they've got a little bit of room to go. So we'll see what else they're able to accomplish. The car also has their Stage 4 Savage engine build, so that includes a 3.2 liter stroker engine with a CNC ported head, and it has GSC components in the head as well. So I assume that's probably their most aggressive cam, along with valve springs and other supporting mods to make all of that work together. Then, of course, along with the other top 10 cars, it also has a pure Stage 3 transmission with a billet stator converter. It is tuned on XHP, but they're looking at potentially moving to a different controller, so we'll see if that happens in the future. And this car is using boot mode tuning software. It's tuned by SAME, and it has a Rev2 board controlling all of the auxiliaries. So kind of typical with what you would expect a reflex to control. They're using a Rev2 to control the port injection and do all of their advanced monitoring and safeties. Now, they did post this car on the scales, and you can see it was 3,550 pounds with a driver. So It is pretty light, I would say, for an M2. A lot of that is probably helped by not trying to convert it to all-wheel drive. The rear-wheel drive setup is going to be lighter ultimately, but yeah, I don't know exactly what rate reduction they did, but that's several hundred pounds taken out from the car, considering it's closer to 4,000 pounds in completely stock form. So lots of weight reduction, lots of power, and good engine and transmission tuning is really what helped get this car into the sevens. And then we also had an A90 break into the 190 mile an hour barrier. So the EOS Supra was able to get to 190 miles an hour, and this car is flying. So yes, this car was able to get a 7.589 at 191 miles an hour, and I wasn't able to get feedback from them directly, but looking at some of their old posts, I was able to see their setup. Now, you guys might be familiar with some of their older setups. They have changed it up a bit, but back in August of 2022, they broke the stock motor record. They ran an 8.843 at 155 miles an hour with a Zona 9564 turbo. However, around March of 2023 is when I started seeing posts of this car that had me scratching my head, because as you can see in the front bumper, there's a front mount intercooler. And this was especially interesting because EOS was pretty well known for selling their upgraded intake manifold with an integrated intercooler, so it was more like a factory replacement. So I was curious to see what they were going to be able to accomplish by basically ditching that for a more standard traditional intake manifold and running an air-to-air intercooler as well. And again, I didn't hear a lot about them. Maybe I was missing a lot of updates, but then earlier this year, they won TX2K, and then now they're breaking the 190 mile an hour barrier with their car continuing to break records. So this is a BMB built motor by Billiam. It is a 3.2 liter stroker, and then they're running a top mount turbo kit. It has a 76 millimeter Apex turbo setup. So I don't know the exact turbo, but those were just some of the details that were shared by them and Apex Turbo. And like I said, it has a front mount intercooler with an EOS intake manifold. I don't think it's a one-off, but I haven't seen anybody else run it either. But as you can see, it's a more traditional setup specifically designed to run with an air-to-air intercooler conversion. And then again, of course, pure stage 3 transmission with a billet stator converter, but they are using turbolamic, so that is helping them move a lot faster. It is a standalone controller, and I actually did an interview with turbolamic a while back, so if you want to hear some of my thoughts on what they were able to share with me, let me know. I might make a video just talking about turbolamic details as well. Let me know. And then this car is tuned by Corbin Johnson. So again, moving very fast, 190 miles an hour is crazy, considering one day these cars could be hitting 200 miles an hour is pretty insane to think about. But yeah, I mean, these cars are doing a lot of crazy things. So more coming soon, I'm sure. It is pretty much the end of the season, so I feel like World Cup is typically where we start seeing a lot of the final records broken before cars get put up for winter. But maybe there will be some other private rentals and track days and stuff where these cars are out trying to get deeper and deeper into the sevens, so we'll just kind of have to wait and see what comes out of that. And I think it was pretty surprising, for one, to hear that the M2 is still rear-wheel drive, so showing that you don't have to do an all-wheel drive conversion to go fast. And two, seeing that the EOS Supra is running an air-to-air intercooler, which I've talked to some people about this, and I guess they didn't notice it or didn't realize this. So this is your jump scare. Yes, there is a very fast Supra with an air-to-air intercooler. And maybe this is something that'll become more popular as they continue to push their car faster and faster. So we'll see what happens next year, or, you know, the rest of this year. And of course, I'll make a video if anything notable happens. But otherwise, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.